It was 1 in the morning in a quiet, rural compound in Chibiri. Most people were asleep, but a few lights flickered on when loud shouting broke the silence. Amara, a young woman, stood in the dimly lit lobby, confused and scared. Suddenly, her husband Jeed pushed her out of their apartment. She had nothing on but a towel wrapped around her. Her eyes were wide with pain and disbelief as she begged him to stop, but he slammed the door shut behind her. The night air was cold. Neighbours peeked through their windows, some coming out of their rooms, shocked to see Amara like that. No one said a word. Some just stared. Others whispered to each other. But hidden in the shadows, one person quietly raised his phone. It was the compound's night guard. He stood behind a pillar, phone steady, recording everything. He had seen many things working there, but this felt different. He didn't know what to do, but something told him to record. Amara stood, frozen, heartbroken and humiliated, clutching the towel tightly around her. Jeed's loud voice could still be heard from inside, filled with insults and rage. No one came to help. No one comforted her. But the camera kept rolling. It caught the fear in her eyes, the cruelty in Jeed's voice, and the silence of the people around them. It was a painful moment, one that would soon travel far beyond the walls of that compound. Amara didn't know it yet, but that night, though full of shame, was the beginning of something much bigger than she could ever imagine. Something that would turn her pain into power, and her story into a light for many others. By the time the sun rose over Chibiri, the video of Amara's painful night had already begun to spread like wildfire. The night guard, unsure of what else to do, had uploaded the video online in the early hours of the morning. He didn't write a long caption, just a few words. This happened last night, in our compound, in Chibiri. But those few words and that short video were enough. Within minutes, people began sharing it. At first, it stayed within a few local groups. Then it jumped from phone to phone, from one platform to another. The video was raw. Amara's pain was real. People could feel her fear, her shame, her heartbreak, and they were angry. Social media erupted. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, people started using one powerful phrase, #StandWithAmara. It became the top trending topic in Nigeria before noon. People couldn't believe what they were watching. They paused, rewound, and rewatched the clip, shocked by how Jeed had thrown her out like she was nothing, like she wasn't even human. The towel around her body, her shaking hands, the cold night, the loud slam of the door behind her. It all told a story without needing many words. Influencers picked it up. Activists started speaking. This is not just about one woman, one popular tweet said. This is about every woman who has ever been thrown out, beaten down, or silenced. Enough is enough. The internet turned into a battlefield. On one side, people were outraged, demanding justice. On the other side, a few tried to defend Jeed, but they were quickly shut down by the thousands who stood up for Amara. News stations were not far behind. Before midday, the story had been picked up by local TV and online blogs. Reporters called it a shocking display of domestic cruelty and began investigating who Amara was, who Jeed was, and what had led to that night. Phones rang in the compound. Reporters wanted to talk to witnesses. Cameras started showing up at the gate, but Amara stayed silent. She had gone to a friend's house, still shaken, still trying to understand what had just happened to her life. Meanwhile, the internet kept roaring. More people shared their own stories under the hashtag. Women posted pictures and short videos, saying things like, "I was once Amara. I know that pain." Donations started rolling in. People wanted to help her, to support her, to let her know that she was not alone. Artists created drawings of her, some powerful, some heartbreaking. One showed Amara standing tall in her towel like a warrior. It went viral too. The public began to ask hard questions. Why did no one help her that night? Why was she the one thrown out and not the man who abused her? Where were the laws? Where was justice? Pressure started to mount. Even politicians were forced to respond. A female senator tweeted, "We must strengthen our protection for women. Amara's case is not rare. It's just finally on camera." Some said it was the video Nigeria needed to see, no matter how painful. Jeed, once unknown to the world, became the most hated man online overnight. People flooded his social media with comments. "Shame on you. You are a disgrace. You will pay for this," they wrote. Businesses he worked with began to distance themselves. A company he partnered with released a statement saying they were cutting ties with him immediately. People began digging into his past, finding other complaints from neighbours and co-workers about his temper and controlling ways. The world wasn't just reacting, they were taking action. But what made this video so powerful wasn't just the violence, it was Amara herself. Even in that vulnerable state, she stood with grace. She didn't scream, she didn't attack back. She looked hurt, yes, but also strong. People saw that strength and it inspired them. She became a symbol, not just of pain, but of survival, of silent courage. Back in Chibiri, the night guard who filmed it all stayed quiet for a while. But deep inside, he knew he had done something important. He hadn't stepped in to stop it, but maybe this was his way of helping. He had made the world see, and now the world couldn't look away. Every hour, more people joined the conversation. Celebrities started posting. A popular singer tweeted, "Sending love and strength to Amara. May every woman know her worth." The movement grew bigger. No one expected this story to explode the way it did. But maybe, just maybe, it was time. Maybe the world was ready to hear stories like Amara's, not in silence anymore, but loud, raw, and real. By the end of the day, her name was everywhere, on TV, on blogs, on people's lips. "Have you seen that video?" strangers asked each other. And more than just watching, people were finally ready to speak, to act, and to stand. For Amara, and for every woman like her. Amara could have disappeared. After what happened, after the video went viral and the whole country saw her pain, many expected her to hide away in shame. But she didn't. Instead, she stood up. She wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and decided she was not going to run. She travelled to Asaba City, where she had a cousin who gave her a quiet place to rest. Reporters kept calling. People wanted to hear from the woman in the towel, the woman who had been thrown out but did not break. At first, Amara was scared. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know if her voice would matter. But the messages from strangers kept pouring in. "You are brave. We believe you. You've given us courage." Those words gave her strength. Soon, Amara agreed to her first interview. She sat on a small couch in a local TV studio, wearing a simple dress. The cameras rolled. The lights were bright. But her voice was calm. She didn't shout or scream. She didn't try to make anyone look bad. She simply told her truth. "That night," she said, her eyes soft but steady, "I thought it was the end. But now I see it was the beginning." She spoke about the years of silence, the times Jeed made her feel small, the moments she doubted her own worth. Her voice shook with emotion, and tears rolled down her cheeks. But she never looked away. She faced the camera, and through it, the nation. People were moved. Clips of her interview flooded social media. In the comments, thousands wrote messages of support. "This woman is our sister, our mother, our friend. She speaks for all of us." Hashtags trended again. #Stand with Amara turned into Rise with Amara. People didn't just see her pain, they saw her strength. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was becoming something more, something powerful. Donations started coming in from everywhere. Small amounts from students, larger ones from businesswomen, pastors, even people living outside the country. They wanted to help her heal. They wanted to help her grow. They wanted to give her a chance to rebuild, not just for herself, but for others like her. Amara used some of the money to pay for a small apartment in Asaba. She bought clothes, food, and a notebook. In that notebook, she started writing her story, not just what happened that night, but everything before it, and everything she hoped would come after. More interviews followed. She appeared on morning shows, podcasts, and radio stations. Each time, she spoke with more strength, more clarity. She said things that many women had always felt but never dared to say. Being a wife doesn't mean being silent. Being a woman doesn't mean being weak. Her voice became a wave. Women in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, and even in small villages sent her voice notes and emails. Some told their own stories for the first time. Some cried and thanked her. Others asked, "What can we do? How can we help?" Amara felt the weight of it all, but she also felt the power in it. One day, she got a message from a woman in Enugu. "Because of you, I left my abusive husband today. I don't know what's next, but I finally feel free." Amara sat with that message for a long time. It made her cry, not from sadness, but from something deeper, a sense of purpose. She realized she wasn't alone anymore, and more importantly, no woman should ever feel alone again. She started gathering names, creating a list of women who had reached out to her. She began to imagine a space, safe, warm, and welcoming, where women could come and talk, cry, heal, and start again. That dream would come later. For now, she kept speaking, kept sharing, kept showing up. Every time she appeared in public, people clapped. Some stood up, some cried. She no longer walked with her head down. She stood tall, with quiet confidence. The same towel that once covered her body in shame became a symbol of strength. One designer even made a dress inspired by that towel. White, simple, but bold, and gifted it to Amara. She wore it on a talk show, smiling as the crowd cheered. Her story was now more than a headline. It was a movement, a reminder that even the most painful moment could become a turning point. That being broken didn't mean staying broken. Amara had taken her pain, her shame, and turned it into something beautiful. She had become a voice for the voiceless, a light in the dark, a symbol of hope. And all of it started with one night, one video, and one choice, not to run away, but to rise. As Amara's voice grew louder and stronger across the country, something unexpected happened. One morning, just before a live interview in Asaba, she received a message. It was from Jeed. He had seen everything, the interviews, the trending hashtags, the love and support pouring in for Amara. He saw the world turning against him, and for the first time, he felt the weight of what he had done. He didn't just lose his wife, he had lost his reputation, his job, his friends. The world was watching, and they were not kind to men like him anymore. He wanted to speak to Amara. He said he was sorry. He said he was ready to beg. She didn't respond. A few days later, while Amara was at a community event for women, a small crowd started gathering outside the venue. People took out their phones. Some were whispering. Others gasped. There, standing in the sun, was Jeed. He looked nothing like the man from that night, the one who shouted and slammed doors. His shoulders were hunched. His eyes were red and tired. He held a small placard that read, "I am sorry, Amara." In front of cameras, reporters, and strangers, he got down on his knees. His voice shook. "Amara, please forgive me," he said. "I was wrong. I was cruel. I hurt you, and I regret everything." His hands trembled as he reached into his pocket to pull out a note. He began reading from it, stumbling over his words, barely able to finish a sentence without breaking down. But Amara didn't cry. She didn't rush into his arms. She didn't even walk toward him. Instead, she stood tall just inside the building, watching through the glass doors. Her face was calm. Her spirit was strong. She stepped out slowly, and the crowd fell silent. The cameras turned to her. Everyone waited to hear what she would say. When she finally spoke, her voice was clear and steady. "I see your apology," she said, looking straight at Jeed. "But this is not about just me. It's about every woman who has been shamed, silenced, and pushed aside. You don't get to say sorry in private and go back to normal. If you are truly sorry, then let the world see it." Jeed nodded quickly, desperate. Yes, I will do anything." Amara didn't shout or insult him. She didn't show anger. She simply turned to her assistant and said, "Record this." She made him repeat every word of his apology, clearly, without excuses. She made sure the world would hear it, just like they had heard his insults that night in Shibiri. This time, his voice was not filled with pride or power. It was low, broken, full of shame. And when he was done, she thanked him, not for the apology, but for confirming who he really was. Then she said something no one expected. "You may be sorry now, but I'm no longer the woman who waited for your approval. I forgive you, for myself, not for you." But I will never forget, and I will never go back. The crowd erupted in cheers. Women clapped. Men nodded. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Amara walked away from Gide without looking back. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She walked tall, like a queen who had taken back her crown. The video of the confession went viral instantly. People called it the moment of truth. Millions watched Gide kneel and Amara rise. Comments flooded in. This is what strength looks like. Amara, you are a lioness. Let the whole world learn. Later that night, Amara posted the video herself. She wrote, "Accountability matters. Growth begins with truth, but strength means never returning to what broke you." It was shared over 1 million times. Some said she should have taken him back. Some asked if she was being too hard. But most people, especially women, understood. They knew this wasn't just about a broken marriage. It was about standing up for dignity, for respect, for healing. Amara had given the world a picture it would never forget. A woman who had been thrown out in shame, now standing in power, facing her abuser not with revenge, but with truth. Gide faded from the spotlight after that. The apology had been made. The world had seen it. But his name was no longer the focus. Amara's was. She was the story now. The woman who didn't just survive, but transformed. She had the last word, not through anger, but through strength, clarity, and grace. And that moment, that confession, became one more chapter in the powerful journey of a woman who turned pain into purpose and made the world watch, listen, and change. After everything that happened, the video, the interviews, the apology, Amara knew she couldn't stop there. Her story had touched so many hearts, and women everywhere were now looking to her, not just as a victim, but as a voice. Every day she received messages from women who were still stuck in pain, trapped in fear, or quietly crying behind closed doors. Amara knew she had to do something bigger. She wanted to create a space where women could go when they had no place left to turn. Somewhere safe, somewhere warm, somewhere that felt like hope. That's how Safe Haven for Abused Women was born. She started small. With the help of volunteers and donations from across the country, she began building a team. Counselors, lawyers, social workers, people who believed in her mission, people who had seen the power of her story and wanted to help others write their own. Amara gave everything to this cause. She poured her time, her energy, her heart into every detail. She didn't want Safe Haven to just be a name. She wanted it to be a lifeline. To bring attention to the foundation, Amara decided to host a public fundraiser. She chose Onitsha, a city full of life, full of movement, and full of women who had followed her story since day one. The event was planned for weeks. People from all over the country were invited. Flyers were printed. Celebrities and public speakers confirmed their attendance. But no one could have guessed what Amara would do that evening. When the day of the event arrived, the hall was full. Lights glowed, cameras were ready, and the air buzzed with excitement. Everyone waited, wondering what Amara would say. Then the music stopped. The lights dimmed slightly, and there she was, walking onto the stage, calm and tall, dressed in the very same towel she had been thrown out in on that cold night in Shibiri. Gasps filled the room. Some people stood up immediately, others covered their mouths in shock. And then came the applause, loud, raw, and full of emotion. People were not clapping because of fashion or surprise. They were clapping because they understood. That towel, once a symbol of shame and helplessness, was now a flag of survival, of courage, of power. Amara didn't speak right away. She stood still, letting the moment breathe. Then she stepped up to the microphone and smiled softly. "This towel," she said, holding the edge, "was supposed to break me, but instead it built me. That night, I thought I lost everything, but I found something more powerful. My voice." The room was silent, hanging on her every word. "I wore this towel when I had nothing," she continued. "No home, no clothes, no hope. Today, I wear it again. Not as a victim, but as a woman who chose to rise." She told the crowd about Safe Haven, about how it would offer shelter, food, legal help, therapy, and most importantly, a second chance. She talked about the letters she'd received, the tears of women who felt seen for the first time. She said, "If you're watching this and you're still stuck in pain, I want you to know there is a way out, and we are building it together." People cried, people cheered, donations poured in on the spot. Some offered millions, others gave what they could. It didn't matter the amount. What mattered was the belief. They believed in her. They believed in the women she stood for. Later that night, Amara changed into a simple white dress, but the towel was placed on display at the front of the stage. Not hidden, not folded away, but standing tall, like a trophy. It reminded everyone that no matter how dark the night, no matter how deep the pain, it is possible to rise. It is possible to reclaim your story. By the end of the night, news outlets were already writing headlines. Amara turns shame into power. A towel that shook a nation. Safe Haven opens its arms. The pictures from the event went viral. Amara on stage, proud and unshaken, with thousands standing behind her both in person and online. In the days that followed, women from other cities began asking for safe haven centres in their areas. Lawyers offered free services. Therapists volunteered their time. Even students said they wanted to intern and learn how to help. Amara had started something much bigger than she imagined. And through it all, she remained grounded. She still walked the halls of Safe Haven with the women. She still answered messages herself, late at night. She still sat in circle meetings, listening with an open heart. Because Amara knew healing wasn't a one-time thing. It was a journey, and she was walking it with every woman who dared to believe she deserved more. Her towel had once been a prison. Now it was a symbol of freedom. And with it, she had turned her deepest pain into her greatest power. Months passed, and Amara's life kept growing in the ways she never imagined. The pain, the towel, the night in Chibiri, all of it was now part of her past, not her present. She had become a strong voice for women across the country. Her foundation, Safe Haven, had helped so many women escape fear and find hope again. Her name was no longer whispered in pity, but spoken with pride and admiration. One bright afternoon, she stood on a large stage, dressed in a sharp, elegant business suit, under lights that felt like sunshine on her skin. She had been invited to receive an award for her powerful work in women's rights and social advocacy. As her name was called, the audience stood and clapped. Amara smiled, holding back tears, and walked confidently to the podium. Her voice was steady as she thanked everyone who had believed in her. But when she looked to her left, sitting in the front row, she saw someone very special, the night guard, the man who had recorded her darkest moment, the man who didn't walk away when she was thrown out. He had once been just a silent witness, but now he was part of the reason her story had been heard. She nodded at him with deep gratitude, and he smiled back proud. There was no mention of Jeed, no need. He was now only a faded chapter in a powerful book. Amara had moved far beyond him. She was no longer the woman begging for love or crying in the dark. She was a leader, a symbol, a new beginning. As the crowd cheered, Amara raised her award high, not just for herself, but for every woman still waiting for her own new start.